to offer you this lesson from Unity of the Keys Spiritual Center.
Good to be with you again, as always, in this place of spirit. Before I begin my formal presentation, I want to say a couple of things. First of all, it is Father's Day, and often is portrayed in our society as this monolithic one spirit. But in fact, there are so many layers to this idea of fatherhood. Not everyone in this room had the presence of a father or a father that they would appreciate. Not every father had the opportunity to fully father their children. There's so many different influences that work with us. And so when we talk about a Father's Day, we need to acknowledge the complexity of that. And to acknowledge all those, as we heard in the reading today, that Sherry read, that we need to talk about the ways in which we're nurtured and encouraged. And it may have been by a man or a woman or many men or many women or a combination of all, or it may have been inside us with voices we don't know where they came from, but there they were. So on this Father's Day, we acknowledge not just those who were fathers and good fathers and all of that, but also all those influences, physical and spiritual, that have brought us to the best that we can be today and the even better that we can be tomorrow. But I would not feel good letting this moment go by if I didn't talk about the fact that there are fathers in this world who in this last week had their children, their babies, taken from their arms simply because they sought peace and freedom in their families' lives. As a person of faith and of action, I grieve today. I grieve for all the children forcibly removed from their parents under the guise of just following orders. I call upon all of our collective humanity. We can do better. For my main lesson today, I have two readings with a song in between. Some of you may remember being forced to learn this first reading when you were, say, in 8th grade or so, and some teacher said, you need to know this. It's been slightly adapted to make it more relevant to the 21st century. The words from Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all of those about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think but not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to swerve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all folks count with you, but not too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a person, my child. Right after the events of September 11th, 2001, the musical duo known as the Roaches Susie and Maggie, put together an album called Zero Church, based upon various prayers and other thoughts that seemed appropriate to being in a post-9/11, 2001 era. And this is one of their songs adapted from the writings of we don't know who. It's been attributed to lots of people, but there it is, the words of Anyway.
People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. Succeed anyway.
If you are honest and frank, people may cheat you.
Be honest and frank. Anyway, what you spend years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. Build anyway. And if you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget. Tomorrow, do good anyway. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have. It may never be enough. Give the world the best you got. Anyway, you'll see in the final analysis, it is between you and God. Yeah, yeah, you and God. It was never between you and them. Anyway, yeah. Anyway. Anyway. Anyway.
And a brief passage from Ralph Waldo Emerson, who I should remind you liked to be called Waldo, not Ralph. Interesting. Where's Waldo? It is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great ones are they who in the midst of the crowd keep with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. I have to tell you, I love books. I love the feel of books. I love the smell of books. I love the energy they give off when on shelves full of books, something's happening. I love the way I look at my bookshelves and suddenly a volume I haven't looked at in decades leaps out at me. But I have to tell you, in the last decade or so, I've stopped buying books. I've stopped reading books. I've started buying and reading ebooks, the things on various readers, the main one being Kindle, but there's many others out there in which you can read these books. And what I love about the ebook is that I can, in one little package, carry an entire library with me. That at any given moment I can open it and there will be 3,000-4,000 selections to choose from. So if I'm on a park bench somewhere, or I'm on an airplane across the country, or I'm sitting beside the canals in Venezia, I suddenly have my library with me. But I've got a problem. And the problem is that one of my earliest Kindles, now periodically, well, actually every time I use it, I plug it in and charge it up. And it takes on a few hours to get its full charge, and then the little yellow light turns to green, and all is great. And I take it with me, and I go out to read, and somewhere about an hour down the road, the screen of death begins to appear. The one that says, your battery is low, you need to charge, or you can't keep reading. But I charged it. I charged it. It should remember that I charged it. I gave it all the power I had, and it said it was enough, but now an hour into it, it's not. Keep that image of the poor Kindle that apparently had taken on all the power it needed, but now it isn't enough, and hold that with you as we take some other journeys with me to some other concepts, because in the end, they're all going to interrelate. A question: why are you here? Now, I'm not asking the big philosophical why is any human person or any piece of existence here. I'm asking really the more particular: why are you here this morning sitting in the chairs that you're sitting in? Why do we come to spiritual assemblies? Why do we spend an hour on Sunday morning when we could be doing things that the rest of society say are more productive, like reading the New York Times and enjoying orange juice and a bagel? Maybe a little schmear and lox on it too. But we choose instead to be here. Why? If you are like I am, and I hope that you are, it's because we realize that in the struggles of life, in the ups and downs, ins and outs of what goes on, we need some place to plug our batteries in. Maybe in the week or month or even year past, there have been moments when occurrences, events, people have sort of battered down our spirit, and we come here to have a sense of renewal. You know, you look at the songs you've sung this morning about the abundance of possibility flowing out of the divine that's in you, but some mornings you wake up and, boy, you can't see that. You can't feel that. You can't know that. There are mornings when you go, oh, is this going to be another one? But then you know that this morning, this Sunday, 11 o'clock, you're here. You're in the presence of people who, like you, are seeking to find that larger meaning and experience of the divine. And these people are going to greet you and hug you and understand you and affirm you and remind you over and over again of how all things are possible, and it will feel so much better. Isn't that one of the reasons you're here? That you're not having to live out life alone. Not having to live out a life that so often seems like it gets broken, hurt, picked on. But here, as you did in that meditation, you can center down. You can feel your heartbeat slow. Your breath becomes longer. And your depth becomes deeper. And your height becomes higher, and your spirit expands to take in all of the universe. And you're here to experience that. But I have another little secret to tell you. The seat you're sitting on, you're not sitting there alone. There are 3 people sitting on that seat. You can go look and see if you can see them. Strangely enough, they all look like you. There's the one that's here right now that's attending to my words, or maybe you're off preaching your own sermon to yourself, and that's fine too, because the words you need to hear will be the ones that you're going to hear. Mine are just triggering where you need to go. But the second person who is in that seat, the second person in that seat is the person who's here now. But come Monday night, when some driver cuts off the trolley you're driving, Or some client comes in and demands of you something that you didn't expect they would demand of you. Or maybe it's just a loving partner who says a word not meant that way, but it certainly sounds unkind. Or maybe it's the tourist who decides that a red light would be the perfect time to walk in front of your car. I don't know, there's plenty of examples in Key West, in which that second person in your seat forgets they were ever here. When you're in the thick of it, and it may be something minor, it may be so minor that you don't even think about it, but you're out at Publix or Winn-Dixie's or Fausto's, and they had some special you knew that was on sale, and you planned your whole menu around it, and you go into the store, and they say, oh, we'll have to give you a rain check for that. And so all your meal planning goes down the tubes. It may be as minor as that. Or it may be that someone you thought was supportive of you now betrays you in some way, and it's as deep as that. Or maybe in a world that's so often full of hate instead of love, of hurt instead of healing, you hear about some instance at a distance, and you just get so infuriated that you write those words on Facebook that tomorrow you're going to wonder why you wrote them, but you wrote them anyway, and you hit the post button, and there you are. That's the second person that's sitting in your seat. It's the person that's going to go out into the thick of it and then somehow forget the lessons of this morning. Going to go out there and drop to the lowest level of reactive behavior. Is going to try to see all of their own personal issues reflected in the activities of others. All the insecurities that we have ever known, all the hurts that have ever been hurled our way, all the doubts we've ever had, all the broken promises and relationships will suddenly be summed up in whatever moment that is, and therefore the security guard at the airport becomes our enemy. And not just a fellow human being, a fellow spirit, traveling the spiritual journey of meaning and understanding. The first of you who's sitting here knows that person, they're not out there to get you. They've got their own issues and worries and other things. The first person who's sitting here right now, the people I see in front of me, know that we're all struggling so often, and we're struggling within a universe that's filled with possibility and potential we cannot even imagine, and therefore we ought to be able to see that instead of the imperfections. But that second person in your seat, in that moment, sees only the imperfections, sees only the impossibilities, sees only the deficits, sees only the attacks, sees only the things in them that haven't been resolved. Now, who's the third person in the seat? Looks a lot like the second one, who happens to look like the first one too, since it's all you and me and all of us here this morning. That third one is someone who walks out into the world and is confronted with that stupid driver or that consumer who's demanding of us, is out there dealing with the issues of a store that's run out of our favorite product, is having to deal with some officious official. That third person has that same experience. Someone they thought they trusted has cut off their love and allegiance. A child hasn't called. A parent is ill. It seems like the divine is missing. But that third person remembers this moment. The third person in the seat remembers how it felt in the middle of that meditation we just did together, when all was connected, all was meaningful, all was possible. Divine love infected all of us and collectively this entire body. That third person remembers well what it felt like when we were here. One of the things that I have taken on as a mantra of my life is that we need to learn. You call this today's lesson. We need to learn things. And many of us do very well. We learn things, but there's a problem. So often we learn many things, but it's actually the same thing over and over and over again. We hear ourselves saying, well, next time I'll do it better. And then the next time you say, next time I'll do it better. There's a key component in this that's both learning what we're doing right now here, and the other component is remembering. Anything we learn is relatively worthless when, out of the context of that learning, we don't remember it. We often talk about physical training, that all of our athletes learn how to train their muscles so there's muscle memory, so that when they get out there in a track and field event, or they get up there to hit the ball, or they're playing in the World Cup, they're not having to think about playing their best. Their entire being plays their best. They have learned what to do, and they've taught their being to remember. But that's physical. Why not the same for spiritual? That we need to find ways to be able to take from moments like this what needs to be remembered, so that when we get in those moments of life that are less than good, we won't have to learn it again, because our spirit, our soul, so remembers it that that becomes our automatic response. That we don't become that second person in the seat who goes out into the world and forgets everything that they've learned on Sunday and goes back to what they were before, but instead becomes that third person, the person of Kipling, the person of the Roaches, the person of Emerson. It's so easy in this room, so easy in this room to experience and feel the things we want to embrace the most that will enhance us and enhance existence. But so much harder to go out in the larger world where not everyone has been here and try to live out that same practice. But think of all the great religious leaders we've ever had across history. They had that same message over and over and over again, that the values we hold, the ways we react to life, the things that we talk about as possible and therefore within us, are there all the time, and we need to act on them. We need to act and embody them, to take the spiritual things we know and make them the practice of our lives. Now, I'm not saying you can immediately go, okay, I'm going to remember all that. But I am going to suggest that you begin that process right now. That something happened here this morning in the connection with others, in the words from unity, maybe in my words, in the words from other people, in the music, in the embrace of a friend, in the way in which we feel safe and secure here. Something happened this morning that you want to take with you, so that in this week, the burdens, the hurts, the slings and arrows will not be too much. If every time you're here, you learn something that you learn and then remember, in the fullness of time, your spirit will say goodbye to person number 2, and person 1, the one sitting here now, and the person who lives out Sunday morning in every other morning, afternoon, and evening, and night of the week will become a single entity, a single spirit. When you're in the thick of it, take a moment, take a big, deep breath, and remember what you said in your spirit here this morning was important to you, and then live it out in those mornings. Think of what a world that would be. Blessed be, and amen. Thank you.